All right, now I just sent out invites. Is that working? I see that you are very eager, Tatsuaki, to get on stage. Appreciate it, but let us try to get the team on here as well.
I didn't, did I?
Hey, Susanne.
There you go.
Progress.
Really, you're right. Like desktop is working better than mobile this time.
That is amazing.
So Flaky, you know what you got to do. Come in via desktop.
Amazing. I have been telling everybody, please join via mobile. It is often buggy through desktop. Interesting. So it's just the other way around. And now we only are missing Harry.
It's okay. We like to wait for good things. So. This silence is killing me until then. We need to already start talking about the EVM. So, Luca, maybe you can unmute yourself. Are you excited, guys?
Of course I'm excited, yeah. I think it's actually pretty great to finally, have programmability on IOTA, because for so long, right, we had the layer 1 and people were able to transfer tokens, create native tokens, NFTs, but it's quite obvious that there's a big hunger in the community to build, bigger application, proper application on top of IOTA, and they finally get to do that with the IOTA EVM. So I'm very excited to see. It's I think also a very different game between Shimmer EVM and IOTA EVM in aspects such as what I anticipate the activity is going to be. Just because IOTA has a much bigger market cap, evolves over the coming months.
You're really chilling hard, and you're only chilling hard because you've got the insights nobody else here in this Twitter space has. You are aware of this. So it's going to be very difficult to pick up people, and get them to the same level of excitement without being accused of senseless shilling. But I see that Souflaki, Harry is here. So I think we are complete.
Hello, everyone. Glad to finally be here.
Hey, Harry.
Hear me okay?
Hey, Harry. Very well.
Yes.
Let's get started.
Amazing. Maybe I can also share my insights with everybody here, because I was also reflecting on this over the last few days, and also speaking with some OGs in this space about what IOTA has been going through, right? Because I think the first thing that we always hear is hey, what have you guys been up to? Because many people outside of our bubble, right, people within the crypto and the Web3 space, many of them haven't really heard about IOTA, because quite frankly, IOTA hasn't been competing as a Web3 project. And if you look at the history of IOTA, we were founded in 2015, so that's nearly a decade now, right? So I personally spent a third to nearly half of my life in the crypto space, which is kind of crazy to think about, that IOTA is nearly like a a teenager at one point, right? And the project itself went through so many different iterations and so many changes, because in this space that we are operating in, it's impossible to start something and be right with your assumptions and your hypotheses of how the adoption will happen, right? I think many of you remember how IOTA was born. It was really about IoT. It was really about this machine economy, about connecting and bringing blockchain to the real world. And in 2017, IOTA was really one of the leaders that was moving forward this real world adoption. And if you guys remember all the other projects at the time, everybody was shooting in a million different directions, right? Decentralizing insurance, decentralizing supply chains, and doing all those kind of different use cases, and exploring what actually makes sense. because a new technology like blockchain, you first need to figure out, or you first need to experiment, right, before you're really able to understand and really know for certain where the use cases are. And so I think for us at IOTA, over the years, we've done use cases, mobility, energy use cases, energy management, right, supply chains, and like across the entire sectors. And where we see the biggest adoption today is really in 3 areas: trade logistics, where we have the TLIP project, which many of you are aware of, which we started in 2018 in Kenya, and which we're now really expanding in the UK and also other African countries to digitize trade. Then we're doing tokenization, right, where we're now starting to bring real-world assets on chain, and where we're also doing digital identity. And so I think for us as IOTA, there was also this evolution going from an enterprise blockchain, right, working on enterprise-related use cases ourselves, to a real ecosystem where others can build on top of IOTA. So this is why Chrysalis was so important, which happened, I think it was 2021. Luca, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's even 2020 now.
2020, yeah. So Chrysalis was 2020, where we finally got rid of all of the old ideas of IOTA, all of the bad ideas of IOTA when we founded it, right? Many of you might remember ternary and Winternit's one-time signatures. So we really got rid of all of those bad concepts and introduced a protocol that really works, that's reliable and easy to use, and had relatively fast transactions. But the main thing that we always realized that is missing is programmability, like Luca already said, because that's what we need to really build an ecosystem. That's how we can really empower people to build on top of us. I think many people might not know this, but this notion of permissionless innovation, where you can just really take the technology and build on top of it without asking for permission, without having to request some information or approval first. That's really the main reason why I joined this space back in 2011 as well, right? Because it's really about empowering people, empowering innovators to take this technology to new use cases that people could never imagine, right? And that's really the true power of what we are building, where IOTA is evolving from this enterprise blockchain to really a digital infrastructure for people to build these new use cases on top. And so this is why this EVM release, which we've been working on for close to 2 years now, right? First was released on Shimmer, so we can really make sure it's secure and it's safe. And now it's been finally released on IOTA. Now we're really unleashing the full potential of IOTA and making it possible for all of you, right? Many of you are really amazing builders who've been through this with us, who have been building over the last few months or even years to be the first DEX, to be the first lending market, the first stablecoins, the first GameFi project on top of IOTA. And we have an amazing community with IOTA, and IOTA is also an amazing brand and a reputable brand in this market. And I think now with the EVM, we can really take this to the next level and finally compete in Web3, because so far our hands were tied, right? All of these discussions, it oftentimes felt like we're really being held back from realizing our potential, because nobody could actually build on top of IOTA, right? And so now we have the EVM and it works really well, right? Transactions confirm quickly. There's already some dApps deployed. There's already over 40 dApps or even more in our pipeline, which Suzanne probably can talk about a lot more, and Harry. And I think this really opens up so many new opportunities. So what I am personally really excited about seeing is, first of all, getting all of the nice dApps and use cases that already are present in other ecosystems, right? Like we don't need to kid ourselves. Like what we're doing isn't reinventing the wheel altogether, right? Because Phantom, Avalanche, Solana, they all already have all of these DeFi primitives. And so over the next couple of weeks, it will be about getting those basic building blocks in place so that we have liquidity on chain, so that all the basic building blocks are there, they're functional, and you can actually do stuff with your IOTA tokens, right? Now we really have utility for the IOTA token. But what I'm really excited about is how we can take this to the next level once those basic building blocks are in place, right? How we can build RWA-based or RWA-first applications right? Where we are going to tokenize and bring hundreds of millions or even billions of assets on-chain to IOTA, to the IOTA EVM, and how we can then also give more accessibility to those assets for people around the world, and also how we can build new use cases in other domains, right? So we're already talking about how we can tie in trade finance use cases, how we can connect this with what we're doing with TLIP, for example, right? For example, to do invoice factoring, tokenizing invoices on-chain. So I think this really opens up so many new possibilities. So I'm personally really excited to finally have this. And I think for many in the community, this is also like really the first time where we can do something really exciting with our tokens, right? Now all of us really can participate in the ecosystem and do new things that we haven't been able to do before. So it will be a fun journey to move forward.
I actually think it's a super fun journey. And this is what I meant. I mean, like, everything until yesterday has been behind closed doors, which I believe was like, for the parts of the community, quite intolerable at one point, because like, no matter what you say, everything is being perceived as a tease and nobody knows how long it takes. But I'm actually really happy that Harry is here today on the call. So for everybody who doesn't know, Harry joined the team around 3 months ago to work also on our grants program and on the architecture of the DeFi ecosystem we're currently building. So to shed a little bit of light on, why we are actually excited, and actually much further along than just starting to build a DeFi ecosystem. I think Harry's the person to give quite a comprehensive overview, mostly, of course, because he has been, together with Mark at the grants program, which has been funding a tremendous amount of projects into the ecosystem. But also can give you a glimpse of what is about to come in the next couple of weeks and months. So Harry, I'm going to give this over to you to give a little bit more of a preview of what Dom has been hinting at.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hi again. Yeah, it's been a wild 3 months since I've been here and just getting everything in place. So when Susanna's talking about things that have been happening behind closed doors, behind the scenes that we were unable to talk about publicly, is I guess you can call the wireframes of the EVM and the things that need to be in place for projects, protocols, teams, anyone to come and engage on our ecosystem in a seamless environment, whether you're a builder or whether you're a user. And those underlying building blocks was getting very good RPCs in place, getting a very good index in place. We're talking about getting oracles integrated. We're talking about getting a bridge integrated. And all of that was happening over the last few months. And as you can see in the launch announcement, they are big names in that space. If you look at Pyth and Super, they are big names in the Oracle space. If you look at Blast API, they are fantastic providers for RPCs. Gold Sky is wonderful on the indexes side. And when you look at bridging solutions, do you get any better than Layer 0 with Stargate on top of it? And there have been some questions about when is Layer 0? Well, the Layer 0 endpoints are there, they are live. The UI through Stargate will be coming in the next few days. That is all agreed. And that is all that was in place so that builders can now come and build on top of it. So if we look at that, that is phase 1 of our EVM rollout. Phase 2 is getting a strong DeFi infrastructure, because an RWA-centric environment really needs DeFi building blocks in place for them to function. If you look across the board at other RWAs out there, what are they? They are treasury-backed stablecoins, they are tokenized properties, or something of that ilk. But all of them need either lending markets, DEXs, core infrastructure, core verticals within DeFi to operate with. And that is what we have been focusing, in addition to the groundwork, to onboard teams to start deploying. What does that look like? Well, our first grant recap went out about a month ago. Our next one is scheduled out to go next month. Not next month, next week, sorry. And in total, we have funded 20 projects already in total, totaling just under $2.4 million. What does that get us as an EVM? Well, we have 4 DEXs coming. We have potentially 3 lending markets. We have potentially 2 CDPs, in addition to bringing over USDC and US Tether through Layer 0. We have 2 to 3 perps coming through. So across the board, not only do we have variety, we have strong teams, both from within our ecosystem and from outside coming in, wanting to build on IOTA. That has been the most fabulous thing about the journey of the last 3 months, is speaking to people outside of the IOTA community. For example, when we were in Dubai over 2049, a ton of people are interested in IOTA. What are we doing? Where are we going? They are fascinated. They are so interested, coming to build and work with us. And we are doing what we can to facilitate that progress. And that is the phase we're currently in. The next phase on top of that is building out that really, really strong RWA-centric vertical. And that touches on what Dom was talking about. So we're not going to only go for things like tokenized treasury bill. To be honest, in the RWA space, that is the lowest hanging fruit you go for. If you do not have that on your RWA chain, you're not really an RWA chain. But we want to push the boundaries. We're talking about tokenized treasury bills. We're talking about tokenized potentially tokenized carbon credits, tokenized regulated funds, tokenized invoices. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. Look at the layers within TradFi, and all of that can come on chain in one or other form to facilitate either trade efficiency or to unlock cash flow efficiency, release businesses from the burden of cash flow constraints. You can unlock all of that on chain, and that is the direction that we're going to. But that takes time, and you need a strong baseline DeFi infrastructure to be in place for that to come. And we are almost there. Those projects are busy deploying. You can already see there are a few that are live on the ecosystem. DeFi Llama feed went live an hour ago. You can see IOTA's EVM, the flow of TVL into protocols on our network live. The Block Explorer is wonderful. It's tracking information live. It is all there. We can watch it evolve in real time. And I'm so excited to go on this journey with everyone. Watch us grow and hopefully watch us succeed, because there's a lot of capital out there. Why not come to IOTA? Why not come to an organization that has deep roots in Europe, in the UAE, across multiple jurisdictions, non-profit organizations, a firm relationships with regulators, governments, to sit and complement this DeFi universe we want to be a part of?
Harry, I think I mentioned it. Did I mention it yesterday? But I think I mentioned it before. Like, one of the things I love about you and working with you is this insane amount of excitement you can get yourself into when you start talking about work and the stuff we have been building. And I love listening to you. And you touched on one subject, which I think like a few people probably who listened or tuned a little bit into this entire Binance token 2049, also AMA thing, is, and it might have gone under, like, you know, if we're talking about tokenized assets, if we're talking about our strategic expansion in the UAE, and, you know, the close work we have been doing together with the regulators, you know, I think like one of the things that has not been spelled out is, you know, we are also at the forefront with this, you know, at the intersection of Islamic finance, which is a huge market. And I think like Dom can tell like a ton about this. Also in terms of, you know, the compliance efforts we have been doing recently, which are about to be pushed through in terms of, you know, the potential in the market, because I know he has been talking a lot about this in the past couple of months. And I think it's it's a vertical that shall not be underestimated, and it is something, the doors are wide open for us at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I think this really also really has to do with our history of IOTA, right? Because if you look at the history of IOTA, we joined this space because we really believe that blockchain will be used in the real world, right? And blockchain will really, only make sense if it really impacts our lives. And early on, we realized that the only way that we can do that is by doing IOTA as a serious project, so to say, right? Setting it up as a regulated German nonprofit foundation and working with regulators around the world to educate, but also sort of collaborate. And so some of the most important initiatives that we've been doing are obviously in Europe, where we've been spearheading or being part of EPSI, right, the pre-procurement phase of EPSI, and where IOTA was one of the finalists, and now that is obviously taking a new role with the European. So IOTA will also then see how are we going to be part of that. And other than that, we've always been focused on working on projects where we work together with governments, like TLIP, right, digitizing trade. We are speaking with ports basically on a regular weekly basis all around the world to actually adopt IOTA in the real world. And we established the first DLT foundation in Abu Dhabi, regulated and licensed by ADGM in November of last year. And as part of that, we've also been trying to pinpoint different areas and how we can increase this accessibility of IOTA in the market. And so getting this Sharia compliance and showing that IOTA as a token is actually an investable asset, right? It's actually allowed to invest into it, has been something that we've been working on over the last few months. So I think over the next couple of weeks, we'll hopefully be done with the certification process, and then we can really say that IOTA as a token is Sharia compliant, and that really opens up an entirely new market for people to invest into IOTA and into the ecosystem. But other than that, obviously, what we're really focused on is on the RWA side, like how we can work with the regulators to actually use our brand and our network to help bring those assets on chain, because we can set up, or we are in the process of together with our ecosystem partners, of setting up different fund structures, right? And actually then using those funds, those regulated funds, to tokenize assets and bring them on IOTA and onto the EVM. I think this is really the start of this, but I think compliance and regulatory advocacy and the connections that we have around the world are really one of the USPs that we have. And I think now with the EVM, we can really start leveraging that a lot more. Another example, by the way, that I wanted to highlight is the on-chain KYC project that we have started, and where we actually showed a demo a couple of months ago. This is definitely going to be part of our strategy moving forward. So we have been making bigger investments there, and I think we are also seeing some exciting adoption and recognition of that project. Because what you basically enable there to do is you really smoothen and ease their onboarding process to get institutional investors on chain. Because many of you know, I think everybody on this call probably went through a KYC process at one stage of your life. And I think everybody complains about it, how painful it can be. And the question is always like, why do I need to repeatedly do this KYC process? Why can't I just do it once and use it across the ecosystem? So this is exactly what our on-chain KYC project is. It's effectively tokenizing KYC processes, right? Giving you and your digital identity a proof that you're KYC verified. And that's exactly really exciting for the RWA sector, because now you can do tokenization in a much more efficient way, because some assets can only be invested in by professional investors or KYC investors. And so with this on-chain KYC project, we can really, make it easier for institutional investors to get onto our network and participate in the ecosystem. So that's definitely something that we're very excited on, to move that forward and make it also more deeply embedded within the EVM, but also within the IOTA layer 1. So, yeah.
I'm just thinking, Dom, I think we have a ton of questions in the audience. Let me have a look at those ones. Give me a second, because I know we are short on time always. I'm pretty sure we could talk forever, but, you know, some of those questions are so well,
Yeah.
you know, we can give a ton of answers, you know, around many topics.
Yeah, I think one thing that I also just want to highlight, and I think Harry also already mentioned this, it's just like we're not starting from scratch, right? Like we have been ecosystem building for this EVM over the last 1.5 years. And I'm really grateful for many of the builders within the ecosystem who were quite early, right? And who also had to go through this together with us and really gave us a lot of input and a lot of feedback and have been very supportive on this journey, because it has been a transition for us as an organization, right? The IOTA Foundation. Because if you think about it, we were really more of an enterprise focused team rather than a Web3 focused team. So there was a lot of learning from our side as well. And I really think that one of the USPs that we have with this EVM is we're not starting from scratch. There's already so many amazing dApps that are either deployed or are going to be deployed very soon, where I think we'll see a very thriving ecosystem over the next couple of weeks instead of months. And I think the value that this will bring to IOTA and to our ecosystem is really tremendous. And all the builders from other ecosystems that haven't deployed yet, I can really encourage you to come to IOTA, because we are a large community, and IOTA is one of the oldest and most recognizable projects in this space. And I think we're really part of we're at the start of something really amazing for our ecosystem. And so for all the builders out there, it makes sense to be part of that from the get-go, because that is where the biggest opportunities are for people that want to invest into tokens, but also for builders, right? And so I really encourage everybody to come. And just because we as a foundation have an RWA-centric focus, because that's how we want to bring billions of assets on chain, it doesn't mean that the chain itself is only focused on RWAs, right? Like we have amazing GameFi projects, and we have the whole spectrum of DeFi, right? And of course, there's also meme coins, because that's what the community wants, right? It's a permissionless ecosystem, so anybody can build anything. And so we're here to support all of you and bring you to the next new amazing DeFi ecosystem, which is obviously IOTA EVM.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about ecosystem building, Dom, you know, while obviously, you know, with the staging network, you know, there was some ecosystem building, you know, I really would like to point out the following. For me personally, working with a team that has been working on building this ecosystem, and with the builders in our ecosystem that have been supportive, with whom we have been aligning and seeing this rapid growth also in our builders program, you know, seeing how many projects have been funneled in the last, let's say, active and aggressively actually, and at rapid pace in the past 3 months, you know, it makes me super exciting. And I always feel like it's very difficult, you know, unless you announce something, unless you push like on a daily basis, one announcement out, you know, where people actually get the full scope and, you know, the quantity of projects, but also the quality of projects, you know, it's really difficult. Like, for example, like, you know, looking at our Discord in the past couple of days, I mean, that Stargate is going to come, you know, I mean, it has been apparent, you know, for some time, you know, people have picked this one up. It has been picked up, obviously, in the blog post, because we hinted at a complete infrastructure, which is now about to be completed in the next couple of days. And I feel like, I'm not sure sometimes, and I see it also in the question. I have one question in front of me that asks me basically, can we explain why Stargate V2 is such a big deal for IOTA EVM? Harry, I know you have been, you know, talking about this and explaining this a little bit, but for me, those are things, you know, that are core pieces of our EVM strategy. And I mean, it's not only cross-chain. The strategy or success does not only lie, you know, in cross-chain connectivity, you know, it lies in liquidity. It lies in, you know, connecting ourselves to other ecosystems, to other ecosystem communities, basically. So with onboarding new users, you know, with bridging over liquidity. And why do we think Stargate, you know, plays like a big deal in this? Because I can talk forever about so many other pillars of what we consider to be a really successful EVM architecture at this point in time. And we think it will play out as such, obviously, but, you know, the mental and core piece to kick off with Stargate, you know, I would like you to explain a little bit more why it is so really important.
Well, so Stargate as a protocol, as an enterprise, as an operation, they are one of the biggest cross-chain solutions, building on top, and they have a very close relationship with Layer 0, who are one of the premier cross-messaging solutions. There are others, but they are one of the best. And Stargate is one of the best to build on top of them. And the very significant thing about V2 is we will be one of, if not the first EVM that gets their V2 live and active, which gives us, well, fantastic exposure. It's wonderful that they are willing to trust us with their technology as a first integrator, and we'll get a ton of exposure to their community, to everyone that is using Stargate, as we will be the first using it on a mass scale. And that is fantastic. Now, if you want to go, well, why V2 and not V1, is at a higher level, V2 solves for problems that V1 couldn't account for. In terms of V1, there needs to be a liquidity pool that you bridge in and out of both networks. The risk that poses is something like happened with multi-chain, where if that pool gets drained, all the assets on the receiving network pretty much lose their backing. And V2 eliminates that. V2 moves to almost a mint and burn function on top of the OFT standard. So you don't have that bridging risk. Everything is, while it's owned by Layer 0 and or Stargate, whoever is the deployer of the token across the networks, they would mint and burn. So if you bring in capital from Base to IOTA, or Ethereum to IOTA, or Optimism, or any of you L2 that you're using, you're not exposing yourself to bridging risk. When you send USDC over, it effectively gets burnt on the source network and minted on ours, and you never have to worry about that. And that is a fantastic innovation, because it takes away all of that angst and that uncertainty about, you know, what happens if my bridge tokens don't have the collateral backing them anymore? And it's wonderful that they, like I said earlier, they want us to be the first to do V2.
Yeah. So it's basically a prime position. I actually think like the first, no, is the second one, as far as I can tell, we are one of two premier launch projects basically for V2. So this is really cool. And I mean, we'll be kicking off a little bit of more promotion and co-marketing together with them, you know, probably going to host some Twitter spaces. I mean, we had Consensus now last week. They were busy with their launch. We are busy with our launch. We're currently exploring, obviously, you know, a ton of co-promotion in the next couple of weeks. Jonathan has started kicking off the Buildersphere Twitter Spaces or X Spaces, which will continue a little bit more in a roundtable format. So we can start introducing not only our infrastructure partners, but also connecting them, you know, with relevant applications in our ecosystem, you know, that make usage of these infrastructure components and, you know, kick off discussions around the relevant topics, you know, for those projects or for those core pieces. So, yeah, let me have a look at my list of great questions. When new website? I think it has been promoted already, no? IOTA EVM website today, has it?
I think that person probably means the new IOTA website itself, right?
Yeah, well, soon. Oh, I'm not supposed to say soon. I said a really bad word. Shame. I have one. So looking at all the components we think, you know, enable a successful DeFi ecosystem, from the core infrastructure to developing it into a very highly competitive infrastructure, you know, to cater for a competitive and high-performant DeFi ecosystem. From liquidity, on-chain incentives, community building, the accessibility of the token, not only cross-chain via bridges, or liquidity in general. We're also looking obviously at, more on the side of exchanges and wallets, to integrate or to enable direct withdrawals and deposits. This is nothing we at this point in time, have added into our announcements. So did we not do this in terms of our applications that are about to come? So this is something like a little bit of a lineup that's about to happen in the next couple of weeks and months while we build out the ecosystem, while TVL is growing. But it has been a question that has been thrown at us. A lot of the times we have been cautious around it. For many reasons, because we don't want to make any promises which we can't fulfill within 3 seconds, because this is normally the expectation management we have to deal with. We say something and it has to be delivered in 3 seconds. We are aware of all these components. We're really working hard on them. So many things are still to be announced and to happen. So I actually wouldn't know where to start. Luca, you have been very quiet, by the way.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you guys have been speaking about all the infrastructure providers who are launching on IOTA EVM. But I think another aspect to talk about is just the performance of it, right? I think it's very different to many other EVMs when it comes to that. It's much cheaper, I think, generally speaking, than many other EVMs you would encounter. And also the latency using it, just interacting with it is very, very different in terms of speed. And I actually want to give a shout out to the development team of the IOTA EVM, of the IC platform, who over the last, let's say 8 months, right, have been building and fixing and just working on improving the IC platform, which has been first launched as Shimmer EVM and now has become IOTA EVM. There have been many, many changes. I think, again, if I use it, if I just interact with any dApp, it's just a very different experience than as if you would use it with Ethereum, right? If you use Ethereum, everything is super expensive. It takes 12 seconds or longer until your transaction goes through. And I just think, the team has done a tremendous job, and I'm very excited to see what they come up with in the future to basically improve the experience. And we do have some ideas in the pipeline, right? We also changed, for example, the fee structure from the Shimmer EVM to the IOTA EVM, like how it works. We've improved upon that. Should now be much more dynamic and cheaper in general. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them and say thank you to the team, basically.
I mean, there are a ton of people involved that make a launch obviously happening. We have the IC team, we have our DevOps team. Big shout out to them now. We have our comms team. We have an incredible design team that always kicks ass with the most competitive design in the space. I'm not sure if it's to be found anywhere else. Our eco team, and then all the other teams around us that basically enabled all our work. So it's you're right. It's maybe a little bit time for a shout out for everyone, and say a big thank you, and also say a big thank you to everyone who has been waiting and now obviously is entering into a new phase of waiting to see what will all be delivered. I think we gave a good glimpse in terms of infrastructure. I know that Harry has been burning to leak a little bit, more in terms of the grant side. Harry, are you still keen to leak a little bit and give a little bit more of an in-depth preview where you think looking at all the different verticals, how many tiers, we identified we actually want to fill? Do you dare to leak?
As long as it's not going to cost me my job, I will talk. No, I'm kidding. Yeah,
I think about it.
It's more than just that. If we look at from a DeFi native standpoint, you can do things like on MetaMask, you can manually add a network, but we have been going a step further, and pretty soon you're going to have a native IOTA EVM integration into Rabi, which is one of the most prominent wallet providers. That, from a UX perspective, like, they are much better than MetaMask. If you haven't used Rabi before, I suggest you try it. That's not a paid ad, by the way, but they are stunning. And with that also comes an integration into DBank. So you'll be able to manage your portfolio. And all of these things are taking place nicely and fitting together nicely. Then if we look at, some of the teams that are coming, there's from outside our ecosystem onto the network, we have WAGME. We have Velocimeter. We have one of the premier perps dexes in terms of Simio with IntentX, that are on the forefront of that technology. We have, so I'm only talking about teams that are builders coming outside of our ecosystem onto our ecosystem. And those are applications that we have processed. They are coming. They're not those that we still need to evaluate. And we continue to evaluate. I think right now, since its launch, we have had 86 or 85 applications, and we're just working through all of them. And I think, everyone was giving shout outs to the team. I think as part of that, we need to give a shout out to our legal and finance department too, because we have sent a ton of things their way over the last few weeks, and they have just been but while we're giving shout outs there, I think the biggest shout out we have to give is also to the community and everyone listening to the call. You have allowed us the opportunity over the last few months, especially since I have joined, to grow and iterate and do all these things and asking questions that are sensible and often appropriate in terms of where we are with development, where we are pushing, and keeping us honest in terms of how we're progressing through the things. And there are unfortunate times where we couldn't give all the information, because it does mean that a deal falls apart. Believe it or not, that does happen. But you have kept faith, especially since I've joined, and you have followed us, and you have engaged, and we have put out these releases. When we do, it's 2-3 months ago, we did our first space around the launch of the grant program and supporting that grant program. And I need to give a special thanks to Mark for helping me with that. But yeah, it's just going to be fantastic. Going back to the projects coming. UNCX is coming, right? The number one launchpad in all of DeFi is coming to our network. They chose to come to us. Gamma, one of the blue chip yield management protocols, are coming to our network. These are not small names. And this is why I speak with such excitement. And this is why I cannot wait for this thing to grow and evolve and help facilitate that process. And we all have our part to play, because we can only be successful if we have the support of everyone. And I hope that you are willing to continue on this journey with us, with the support that you have.
Last question, because I also have to recognize that, Twitter space, I think we're approaching now nearly an hour, and we still have a Discord party to continue with. I know, as a matter of fact, Harry, you're super competitive. I'm competitive. We have a ton of ambition. Dom is competitive. Luca is clearly competitive. Everybody on our team is. Let's play a short game. Everybody's predictions for the next 3, 6, and 12 months. How many DApps will we see on IOTA EVM in 3, 6, and 12 months? Harry, you go.
So 3 months, 30. 6 months, maybe 40. A year from now, in excess of 60.
And Dom?
Where is the exponential growth, Harry? That's what we need to go for.
Well, like Susanna said, I'm super competitive and I really want our EVM to win. And it's part of why I'm super excited.
But I mean, we also don't want to pull off, something some other chains namely have done, stupidly incentivizing, DApp deployments, on their chain, hundreds of them, throwing hundreds of millions into them, only for them to be cannibalizing each other. So I think some sensitive numbers, I think like 30, 40, and 60 is quite sensitive. Dom, are you more competitive? Come on.
I mean,
Maybe
we need to have
100
million TVL by the end of the year latest. I think that's my personal benchmark that I'm going with.
Okay. End of the year or 12 months?
End of the year.
Easy.
Maybe the next 5 or 6 months.
So, Luca, your numbers. I'm taking notes. You know this.
I'm willing to take bets on this. I
would say like 50, 150, and 200.
Yeah. No. Oh, TBL. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to stop this here before we go into. I actually think it's realistic. It's not like we're going into our wildest dreams here whatsoever. I'm pretty sure, as many people as there are in the space, there are as many interpretations of, what success of an EVM ecosystem such as IOTA EVM means. And for me personally, having a community that is excited about something again, B is in the benefit of experience what it means to have programmability on IOTA on a layer 2, to play around, to explore, to have fun with it. I think this is one of the things, we're talking about 30, 40, 60 DApps. And yeah, there's a ton of potential in terms of, revenue, but there's also a ton of potential for fun. With that, a growing user base. A growing user base means a growing community. I think those are all things that are within our favor. And, talking about community growth, this is something I just want to give a small hint and a small teaser, this is not forgotten from our side. While we have been strongly focusing on infrastructure, on grants, on the applications to launch, on all things DeFi strategy and architecture, one of the core pillars is community, and we're currently strongly working at the same time, how to incentivize our community to grow, how to reward and incentivize new members in the community, looking at content creation, looking at ambassadorship, looking at all elements, that make a healthy and thriving community, which is obviously always reliant, on a successful EVM, and the potential to play around, usability, programmability. They all play a role hand in hand together. And I just want to mention, this is one of the things that's really dear to my heart, because I think we could have the fucking best kick-ass DeFi ecosystem, if we don't have a community that's absolutely excited and is having fun, not only, earn money, but really having fun on it, I don't think it was worth it. So this is something I would like to finish at least off this space, unless somebody else still has something to say. And then we can, if you guys want to, we can move over to Discord.
Sounds amazing. Let's ship it.
Silence. Okay, awesome. Ship it. It was nice having you all here. For everybody who wasn't in our Discord space yet, Discord stage yet, please join the IOTA Discord. There's going to be a stage. There is a raffle going on and a little bit of a launch party. And I think, I don't know how many people were in the space here today, 400 something. It would be cool if you all could join us on Discord as well. So everyone, have a lovely evening. Thanks for attending. Thanks for your time. I'm pretty sure there's still a ton of questions. So as always, feel free to drop them. We will try to answer them on Discord as much as we can, obviously. And we'll be hanging out at the launch party. So everyone, enjoy your evening and talk to you just now on Discord. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.
Thanks, everyone.